So continuing our yesterday's theme of a departure from our usual stories that I deliberately look for with a message and so on, rather than a miracle story. But that miracle stories, as we said yesterday, have their place. They stir the neshama, they stir the heart. So this is a famous story from the early days. And the story was related by Gershom Mendel Garelik, soll sein gesund und er Schleime, the Rebbe Shliach to Italy, to Milano. So he says as follows: the Mlava Malka verbringen that we used to have Matzei Shabbos in our home. So once one of the guests was a Chassid, not a Chabad Chassid, not a Lubavitcher, who from Israel, who had come to Italy to raise money. Apparently he's raising money for an institution. So Lav Malka, everybody knows, it's the Chassidic custom by all Chassidim to tell stories of tzaddikim. So he says, I'd like to tell a story. So, Bevakasha, and this is what he says. 1952. He relates the story many years later, but he's talking about back in 1952. That was the early years of Tavshin Yud Beis. So I had a brother-in-law who lived in Williamsburg. And he had a beautiful Chassidic family. And one day, he's confronted with the following terrible news, that his daughter announces she's marrying a non-Jew. He's an academic, a professor, and he doesn't go into all the details, but somehow she got very impressed with this and swept up with that whole world and him and his charisma and so on. Anyway, so the father is shattered, and he goes to all of the Rebbes in America and at Yisrael, and he pours out his bitter heart, and of course they all blessing for Hatzlacha. Meanwhile, the clock ticks. The time of the marriage is approaching. It's already Bo'mayim ad nofesh. Water is coming already, to the nostril, as it were, and she's not budging. So he decides again. He's going again to his Rebbe. It doesn't say who his Rebbe was, and he says, "The Rebbe, this time I'm not coming for a bracha. What should I do? Give me an eitzah." So he went into his Rebbe, who gave him a bracha, as he always did. But now he says, the Chassid says, "Rebbe, I got brachas. I need a practical, what do I do?" So his Rebbe said to him, "I cannot help you, but I'll give you a new address. There's a young Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, go to him." It doesn't say it was, but I'm assuming it was the Satmar Rebbe, because I know of other stories where the Satmar Rav, the Byoilish, would send to the Rebbe. It doesn't say, I'm just assuming. I could be wrong. This was the Pupper of the other Rebbes in Williamsburg. Anyway, my brother-in-law, he says, okay. So he comes to 770, goes into the office, at the small office there on the right. I want to go see the Rebbe. So one of the secretaries tells him, what's your name, your mother's name? Okay. He gives him this date, come back. My brother-in-law, that he was beside himself. He says, no, you don't understand, you can't. And this is urgent. He tells the story. Maybe he didn't be told, but it's time now. So, okay, they gave him they didn't say when, but very soon appointment. And can he bring my wife, they said, because other Rebbes don't see women. The Rebbe said yes. The secretary said yes. So my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law went into Yechidus. First of all, they were shocked at what they saw. The Rebbe, young, a hat, the downturn hat, didn't look like you. And then the Rebbe's response to the whole story. Instead of the Rebbe sighing, oi, 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 there's a smile, a faint smile on the Rebbe's lips, the Rebbe's holy face. And to mystify them further, he says, when is the wedding? And how the preparation is going for the wedding? And he gets down to detail, and they're in a state of complete shock. Where is she buying clothes? Where is she getting articles for the house, furniture, etc.? They're just in shock. But respectfully, they answer. Then the Rebbe says at the end, so where they're going to buy specifically utensils for the house? What's the name of the place? Do you know? He said, yeah, we know this. So the Rebbe says, I know this. I know the owner, and he's a Yid. Before I go further, I just want to tell you, pause button. We're about to read is what Avraham Avinu did in the desert. Similar, you'll hear. So the Rebbe says to them, you find out the day before she goes to buy the necessary things for the house, you meet with the owner of the store. Tell him the story. Tell him in my name that I asked as follows. Tomorrow, after the shopping, she shopped, the owner of the store should put an expensive item in one of, like the story of Yosef also, in one of the packages. And then when she goes to the car, or wherever she's going, he should start, oh, there's something stolen, and make a whole tumult. An expensive item is being stolen, and call the police. They'll search, everything's frozen, they're going to find it by her, and she's going to be arrested. Please do it. And then the Rebbe gave a bracha fatzlacha. So he says, my sister-in-law, my brother and sister-in-law, they walked out of Yechidus in a state of complete shock. He says, actually, they were like nailed to the floor. Hearing this, they couldn't understand. They left 770, but they're desperate. The Rebbe said to go. They did it. They meet with the owner of the store. He was also like shocked, but he heard that the Lubavitcher Rebbe is giving this advice. Okay, so he buys into the whole plan. The next day, like a movie, it happened exactly as planned. She's arrested, and she's crying, and I'm innocent, but I'm sorry. And she literally put her in the prison before there's going to the hearing. That's the parents, my brother and sister-in-law. They were like, ois mensch. Now we've got a new tzara, a new problem. What have we done here? But the Lubavitcher Rebbe's problem, it's his fault. We're going to rely on him. Meanwhile, the girl in prison starts thinking, Gewalt, what has happened to me? When Ameitza Korosika, from the depth I called out to Hashem. So this is the story of Yosef and the brothers, where he puts the goblet, he elicits the teshuvah. Avram put the pressure on the guests in the desert to acknowledge the Eibishter by the exorbitant price. You all know the famous medrash. And she starts to rethink, she sobers up. What have I done with my life? What am I doing? I'm marrying it. And she regrets the whole thing. You know what? I'm not going through with this. This it compelled her neshama. And she writes a note. She was all the rest was for a day or two, but she sends a note to her parents, a thing that it's over, I'm renouncing and not marrying him. The parents, of course, are beyond overjoyed, but what are we going to do about him? So this wasn't a problem. When the professor heard that he got right away, immediately, of course, that his intended is arrested. He was indignant and furious. What? He's going to marry a thief, and he breaks it off. And that's what happened. The conclusion, this Chassid is telling the story in Milan, where Gershon Mendel's home, Nav Malka says that my niece today lives in Borough Park and is a beautiful Yiddish Chassidic home. Friends, have a wonderful day. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos.